He's our good buddy. He's Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, calls games for CBS and Westwood One. He's available for birthdays, bar mitzvahs, whatever it is. Ross will come by and entertain the kids with football stories as he joins us now. Great to see you, Ross. We talked a little bit about Nick Saban and the suggestion that maybe he could come back to the NFL, and to be specific, come back to the Browns and try to pair him with Arch Manning. Seems like a lot connecting the dots there for all of that to happen, but let's just talk about the likelihood that Saban would come back, but he would coach in the NFL.
I think it's unlikely. I mean, it's possible, I guess, Dan, if it's the perfect situation, but I think he retired for a reason. It certainly seems like he's loving being on ESPN and College Game Day. He looks like he's having the time of his life, and I don't blame him. It's kind of a great way to segue after your coaching career. You know, maybe if there was a perfect NFL situation, he would come and try to show that he can succeed at that level. I know I've always kind of thought there's always this talk, Saban's the GOAT, Belichick's the GOAT. Obviously, one did it in college, one did it in the NFL. You know, maybe that's why they're switching sides here in their 70s, right? Maybe Belichick wants to prove he can win in college, and then maybe Saban wants a second chance in the NFL so that they can settle once and for all who's really the better football coach.
Well, more likely to coach in the NFL, Belichick or Saban?
Oh, that is a good one. I think I'm still going to say Belichick because it's very clear and obvious that he still wants to do that, right? I don't think anybody out there believes that Belichick would have taken the North Carolina job if he had any NFL opportunity. I don't really care what he says publicly or privately. I believe that he wants to be an NFL head coach. I think he wants to break Don Shula's record. I think we all know he wants to break Don Shula's record, and perhaps go to North Carolina for a year, coaching there. Maybe he can do enough there to generate interest to get another NFL opportunity. But in my mind, Dan, we know for a fact Belichick wants to be a head coach in the NFL. We don't even know if Saban wants to coach again, period. So I'll go Belichick all day on that one.
I'm trying to understand the logic with NFL owners. By the way, I saw the revenue split. So the team split over $13 billion. And the Packers have to reveal their rev share. It was $432 million that these teams got. Yeah. So Jerry Jones with his situation. Now, he has a salary cap to deal with, so it's not like he's the Dodgers and he can pay whatever he wants. But help me understand the logic behind what's going on with Micah Parsons and his contract.
You know, the first thing I would say, Dan, that's interesting, since you referenced the Packers, they have that mandatory retirement age for their team president of 70. You know, and Mark Murphy, I think this is his last week or whatever. He's been the team president. I always think about that when on the same day, Mike Brown at age 89 and Jerry Jones at age 82 are making comments that don't really help them or their franchise. You know, I guess I think of it this way, Dan. My grandpa is one of my favorite people in the world that I ever had in my life. I wouldn't have wanted him speaking publicly after age 80. And I don't know if, you know, some of these guys, I don't know if Jerry Jones is just, maybe they're just at the age where they just don't care. You know, like they're in their 80s, but Jerry Jones is out here saying, well, yeah, you want us to do these contracts early. We did Trayvon Diggs and Terrence Steele, and you saw how that went. And then he says, hey, we made Dak the highest paid guy. He missed 2/3 of the season. We could sign Micah, but he missed 4. I mean, Jerry Jones just doesn't care at all, and he's just putting it out there. I've come to the conclusion this, Dan. I think there's two reasons, because I have racked my brain to try to understand the logic of why the Cowboys operate the way they do contractually with their star players. I think there's two things. One is risk/liability, right? As soon as you give that guy the huge deal, then the injury risk and the off-field risk really falls on the team more than the player. And I think Jerry Jones is on some level willing to pay to just put that risk on the player as long as possible. What if Micah Parsons gets hurt on the field or off the field? What if he gets in trouble, right? The only other rookie other than Stewart that hasn't signed a contract yet is Browns running back Quinshon Judkins because of that domestic battery arrest down in Florida. Maybe they're waiting till the last possible second. The other thing is, and we know this, Jerry realized a few years ago that nothing generates attention during training camp like a star player holdout. It's the top of every website every day. The latest thing that Jerry said about Micah's contract or that Micah Parsons said to the media, if you tried to calculate the free publicity, the free PR that the Cowboys get every day that Micah's not signed, it probably helps to make up for what they're going to have to pay him, which is more. The problem is, and Cowboys fans know this, waiting this long makes you pay more, eats up more of the salary cap. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the football product on the field, even if maybe it's beneficial for the business off the field.
And then you got the Bengals situation. By the way, those are all fair points that you made there. The Bengals situation, you have an owner who inherited a football team, and he is now saying that Trey Hendrickson shouldn't be so emotional when it comes to his contract. And then he gets emotional talking about the first-round pick, Shamar Stewart, who's not in camp, and that, I forget what the word was, but foolishness. So he's getting animated while complaining about Trey Hendrickson getting animated. And then the Shamar Stewart logic here of, hey, they want to put language in there that if I violate the code of conduct policy, then they're not going to pay me. And then Mike Brown says we don't want to pay somebody who's going to be in jail. So if I'm Shamar Stewart, don't I have enough confidence in myself that I won't end up in jail? Therefore, I don't need that language there. Get paid, get in camp, stay out of jail. That's not asking too much, is it?
There's a lot of good stuff there, Dan. Let's start with Mike Brown and what he said about emotional, because that reminds me of one of the times when I got cut during my career, someone was saying, it's not personal, this is just part of the business. And I said, it's not personal. You kind of just fired me. Like this is my life. This is my dream. I've been doing this since I was 5. You kind of just fired me. It's going to be in the cover paper of my hometown newspaper. There's nothing more personal than this. This is not just, it's as personal as it gets. So I always laugh at that part of it. I'll say two things on the Bengals, because these are two separate issues, right? The Trey Hendrickson thing. Dan, he signed a Band-Aid extension 2 years ago where he tacked on that extra year, right? He otherwise would have been a free agent this year. And I think he and his representatives should have realized it's the Bengals, right? They're gonna do what they can contractually and hold your feet to the fire. He shouldn't have done that Band-Aid a couple years ago if he didn't want to. And I have no idea why any of these guys hold out anymore. He's costing himself $50,000 a day. And the Bengals are not the type of organization that's going to make up for that with the contract that they give you. There's other guys out there. Micah Parsons isn't practicing right now. He says his back is tight or whatever. Right? We've seen guys hold in recent years. Brandon Ayuk, Jamar Chase. Last year, remember the first few days last year at training camp? Tua Tagovailoa and Jordan Love were both hold-ins. So why guys like Hendrickson or McLaurin just throw away $50K per day is beyond me. I don't understand the logic there. Report, you're actually more of a distraction if you're there and you're talking to the media every day and you say your hamstring hurts or your back hurts or whatever. The Stewart thing, which I think the Bengals don't realize, is he's going to sign a 4-year fully guaranteed contract. He's not eligible for a new deal regardless until after his 3rd year, right? So whatever he's missing right now, he missed the offseason, he's missing training camp. The Bengals have Joe Burrow and these 2-star receivers in their prime. In my opinion, Dan, it's actually more critical, or there should be a greater sense of urgency for the Bengals to get Shamar Stewart in and get him ready to contribute this year after their defense was horrendous last year than it is for Shamar Stewart. I mean, the reality is he could do nothing the next 2 years, but if his 3rd year he balls out, well, then he's going to get a new contract. So the onus to me to get Stewart in is on the Bengals. If this contract language is that important to them, then bump up his signing bonus. They like to give him half now and half in 6 months. Throw him a bone. Here's half now. We'll give the other half in a month. Sign this thing that says if you go to jail, we don't have to pay you.
I don't know if you saw the news. Justin Fields was carted off practice with the Jets today. And I don't know the severity of this. I'm waiting for Shefty to have an update on this. But Kirk Cousins is going to be in play at some point to some team, it feels like. Now, once again, I don't know the injury and the severity of that, but it just feels like Kirk Cousins is in the on-deck circle. Now, I don't know if the Jets say we're willing to bring in somebody like that with the amount of money that they're probably going to have to pay. It's probably going to have to be a team that, they're going to be a playoff team if they lose, a starting quarterback. But I'm not sure if the Jets would have Kirk Cousins in play, or the number of teams that would be considering Kirk Cousins. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's a great point, Dan. And no matter how severe the injury is to Fields, I'll actually give the Atlanta Falcons some credit for hanging on to Cousins and not kind of selling low during the offseason, because an injury like this, the Jets are, if he's out for the year, the Jets are not going to go into the season with the other guys they have on the roster right now as their starter, right? They're not going to have that be the case. So that makes Kirk Cousins very much in play. Because remember this, right? Aaron Glenn, new head coach, Muji, the new GM, they're trying to establish their culture. It's a new regime. And I think they want to get off to a good start in terms of having a solid season and winning, and Cousins would give them that opportunity. The flip side, which is fascinating, okay, is that it's supposed to be a really good draft for quarterbacks. We know all the guys, Arch Manning and Nussmeier and Drew Aller and all the names that are out there. Maybe there's a case to be made where the Jets say, oh, it's tough luck with Fields and, there's nobody else really out there. We got to go with these guys. And then maybe the Jets get the number 1 pick in the draft and they have their pick of what's supposed to be a really good draft class. There's really 2 ways they could go. They could go the Cousins, or maybe try to sign Ryan Tannehill, who I think we all forgot just didn't play football last year. Maybe they go that route to try to still be competitive this year, or maybe they use this as an excuse to throw their hands up and play a little money ball, if you will, and get the number 1 overall pick.
Why is it next year's draft is always the best draft for quarterbacks? Right? Wait till next year.
You know why? Because we haven't picked these guys apart yet, right? You only pick the guys apart that are in that year's class. Then it's when it's the next year, you think, oh, man, I saw Aller do this against Oregon, or I saw him do this. I saw Nussmeier do this. But then when you just are when they're the guy the next year, and we all watch them every week and really critique them, then you start to find the flaws and the warts. But we're not at that stage yet. That'll happen about midway through this year. There'll start to be some reports, he's really not as good as we thought he was.
Yeah, a friend of mine who's a scout, he always laughs, when I do, have draft analysts on, and because he knows that once they get their hands on somebody, that's the real stuff. The other stuff is just sort of, hey, I think this guy's got, a great high upside. He does this and that. And the scouts go in there and go, okay, guys, you guys done? Now let us go to work. And then all of a sudden we go, such and such is slipping. Well, maybe he was put up too high to begin with because the scouts wouldn't have put him up there, or somebody's rising. It just like that happened with Mahomes. When my friend said, after we sat down with him, then all of a sudden we realized that if we're going to go get him, we're going to have to trade up to get this guy. And he said, they didn't get the Mahomes in Kansas City, but he said, that's when you realize, like, oh my gosh, it's like when Jerry West worked out Kobe, and he said, no, we're going to shut it down. Wait, he's only been working out 15 minutes. So we've seen enough. We don't want anybody to realize just how good this kid is.
Dan, it happened this offseason. That's exactly what happened with Shedeur Sanders and Tyler Shuck. I mean, in November, Shedeur Sanders was going to be the number 1 or number 2 pick, and nobody even knew who Tyler Shuck was. He's the kid that gets injured all the time that used to be at Oregon. But then when the scouts got in there and really watched the tape, and then when they met with them, Shuck went like this and Shedeur went like this. And hand signals are not great for radio, so I will tell everybody listening that Shuck shot up and Shedeur Sanders went down.
Great to catch up with you. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Always. Sounds great. Thanks, Dan.
That's Ross Tucker, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and he calls games for CBS in Westwood One.